Hi and welcome. I hope you are having a wonderful week. Today I am sharing a fun twist on partial die cutting. This is easy to do and a great way to get a unique design for your cards. I apologize if it's a little noisy in the background. I have workers inside my house, so I'm actually doing this voiceover outside, but there are some neighbors doing work outside, so I really can't win. So I'm trying my best here. Okay, so I have a bunch of examples for you today. I'm going to start with the Poinsettia cards, and then I'll move on to two other bonus cards at the end of the video. Now, I did want to say that this video is kind of a little collaboration that I'm doing with my dear friend, Kristina Werner. We decided to use Sunny Studio products and this sketch, and then see what we each came up with and compare it. So we'll likely come up with very different things, but we will both use the sketch and Sunny Studio products. I will link to Kristina's video so you can check it out also. Okay, so let's start with this card and do the stamping first. I'm going to use this new Sunny Studio Petite Poinsettia stamp set. I really like this stamp set because there are two different sizes of flowers, and the layering images are easy due to the distinct shape. Also, there's a beautiful sentiment included. I also will use the Sunny Studio Festive Greetings. This is a smaller stamp set, so the price point is great. And these script greetings are just gorgeous. I really like the style of them. I am starting with a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch top folding white note card. I'm using my Misty stamping tool simply because I'm making multiple cards, but you could definitely use an acrylic block if you prefer. Positioning my flower so there's enough room in the bottom left corner for my sentiment that I'll add later. Once I have the base of my flower down, I'm going to stamp that with my lightest color. In this case, it's Gina K Designs Red Velvet ink. This is a beautiful red color. It's likely my favorite red ink right now. I'm starting with that on the base. Now I like to make multiple cards, so I'm making a couple of each. First I'm doing a red poinsettia, and I also thought I would do like a pink one. So for this one, I'm starting with the base color of Altenew Coral Berry ink. This is another favorite of mine. It's like a nice peachy red color. And then for my last color combination, I'm going to do like a yellowish or off-white flower. I thought that would be fun and different. So I'm starting with the base of Hero Art's Soft Vanilla ink. These are all great ink colors that I'm using today. Okay, now it's time for the second layer. So I'm going back to my first red card, lining up the second layer of the flower. You can see this is super easy to line up since the outside edge is so distinct in shape. And this time I'm going to use a slightly darker color. This is the Gina K Cherry Red ink, and that'll just give a little bit of a darker image right on top of the first. Now for my peach colored flower, I'm going to use Hero Art's Pale Tomato ink for the second layer. And for my yellowish flower, I'm actually using a brown ink. It's Altenew Sand Dunes ink. Okay, so now it's back to add another layer, but this time I'm going to do heat embossing for the final layer. I used my anti-static powder tool, lining up that third layer. Again, it's very easy to line up. And this time I'm stamping with Versamark ink so I can add gold embossing powder. Now be sure to use your anti-static powder tool on this before you do your embossing powder, because even if that red ink feels dry to the touch, it may still hold on to embossing powder and make a mess. So I'm doing the third layer as a gold embossing on all three of my color combo cards. I think it's really fun to make the final layer be gold embossing because it adds that embossed touch to it, and usually the final layer is just fine details, so it's a perfect opportunity just to use a little bit of gold. So there you can see the final result. I like to go through and do all the stamping, all the adding of powder, and heat set them all at once. Now it's time to do some partial die cutting. If you look at the bottom edge of the flower, the bottom half is cut, but the top half is not. Don't worry about those angled lines just yet. We're just cutting out the bottom edge of the flower. This is very easy to do with partial die cutting. So what I'm going to do is take the coordinating die and tape it in position right over the flower. Remember, this is a note card I stamped on, so I have my note card unfolded. Now I'm going to put the top cutting plate halfway on top of that flower, just so it covers the bottom half of the flower only. That way, when I run it through my machine, the only pressure is applied to the bottom half of the flower, so only the bottom half will cut. And this gives us a great partial die cut technique. If you don't have a coordinating die, just wait till the end of this video. I'll tell you what else you could do instead. So now this has cut through just the bottom of the flower, and that bottom half is cut out. Okay, so next I'm going to do this with all the other cards. So I'm just going to continue to do the same process. Remember, partial die cutting is easy to do. All you have to do is move the cutting plate so it only rests over the area that you want to cut. If you've never seen this technique before, I will link here to a couple other videos where I've done different versions of partial die cutting. It's definitely a technique that allows you to get more out of your dies. Okay, so after I've done this with all of my note cards, it's time to cut the rest of the edge. Instead of cutting straight across, I decided to cut at an angle. So I'm using pencil marks to create like the starting points of the cuts on the edge of the card. I want the cuts to start on the same height on the sides, just to make it look better. So I drew some pencil lines, and I'm going to cut from that little pencil line to where our die cutting ended on the edge of the flower. So I'm just going to connect those two. And this gives us a fun little angle. I just eyeballed that angle. You can make it as angled as you want. And I'll do the same on the other side. If you don't have a trimmer like this, you could just use a craft knife and a straight edge to do that cut. So I'm cutting right up to our partial die cut edge. And check it out, we have this fun angled edge to our card. And because this was a card base, it's already formed into a card. I'm going to add some colored cardstock to the inside of the card. This is cut to be 4 1/4, which is the width of our card, but only 5 1/4 inches tall. So a little of the white shows at the top and the bottom. So this red will show through to the front of the card, only at the bottom area. And there's plenty of the room at the top of that red piece to write your message inside the card. Now for my peach flower card, I added some peach cardstock. And for my yellowish white flower, I added like a cream cardstock. This was a great opportunity to use up some scraps. Now for the sentiment, I decided to gold heat emboss in the bottom left corner on the colored cardstock. This way the sentiment shows on the front of the card and when you open the card. Now I will go through and stamp with Versamark ink on each of the cards. Then I will add the embossing powder on each of the cards. And then I will heat set all of the cards at once. This is faster because the heat gun will be good and hot and will be faster at heat embossing or melting the powder on each of the cards. Now to add some green leaves to the white area, I decided just to use my acrylic block. Since these are small images that are simple in shape, easy to layer, and actually doesn't have many layers, I thought it would be just as fast to use an acrylic block instead of a stamping tool. Here I'm positioning 2 leaves. I'll pick them both up at once with my acrylic block, and then I'll stamp them together. Now I wanted to add a little darker green to the base of each of my leaves. So I'm actually rolling the same leaves against the edge of my darker green ink pad, and then I'll stamp them directly on top. Sorry my head's getting in the way, but that's how I can be sure to line it up nicely. So I'm just kind of getting a little green ink on the bottom edge of my leaf stamps, and then I'll just stamp it right on top, and this gives me 2 tones. After I've done this for all of the cards, I'm stamping a little green image in the center of each of the flowers, and then I gold heat emboss the details on the leaves and the center of the flowers also. For embellishments, I'm using the new Pretty Pink Posh gold confetti. These are gorgeous sequins with lots of shine and no holes in the center, so I think they're perfect for cards. So there is the finished card. You can see there's plenty of room to write your message inside, and it's a fun, different type of design. Here are the 3 color combinations that I ended up with. You can also see the fun detail on the flowers and the leaves and the sentiment. They all have that gold look to them. Now, I'm not really sure which color combination is my favorite of these, but I think it's that cream colored one. I just like that it's different and kind of classy looking, so I'll be making more of those since this is pretty easy to mass produce. Now, before we go, I wanted to show you 2 other examples. This one uses a completely different style of stamp, and also I wanted to show you how you can do this even if you don't have a coordinating die. I used an adorable bear that is from the new Sunny Studios Playful Polar Bear stamp set. This has a lot of cute images and adorable sentiments. Now I stamped the bear and colored him on the bottom left corner of a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch top folding white note card. Now I'm drawing some little tick marks on the side of my note card where I want my angled edges to end. And then I'm just going to take my trimmer and cut from that point down to like the bottom half of the bear, but definitely don't cut through the bear, just right up to the edge. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. Again, if you don't have a trimmer that's easy to do this with, you can always use a craft knife and a straight edge. So now I've cut the lines, but I have to cut out the bottom half of my bear. So instead of cutting a little white trim around, I'm cutting right up against the edge of him. He was easy to cut out, so I really didn't need to use a coordinating die for that. So no partial die cutting is done here, but rather partial cutting. I put pool-colored cardstock on the inside and also stamped a few pool-colored snowflakes on the top part of the card for a little added interest. This card was really fast to pull together. I have one more example. This is another very simple one. I just really liked this Christmas chapel image from this new Sunny Studio stamp set. This is a super tiny stamp set with 2 cute greetings and the chapel. I like small sets like this because the price point is small. So I went ahead and did a card just like the last one. I did use the coordinating die just to make it quicker. And I'm using tonic crystal glaze to add a little bit of glossy shine to the windows on the chapel. So this technique definitely would work with a variety of style of stamps and is especially helpful if you have the coordinating die to do the partial die cutting. So that's it. That's all of my cards for today. This is actually a short video for me. It's kind of surprising. Be sure to also check out Kristina Werner's video, which I will link to, and see what she did with the same sketch design. Thanks for watching. I link all the supplies in my YouTube description. As always, on my blog, I have lots of photos, so be sure to head there too. In the middle are 2 other partial die cutting videos that are worth checking out. If you haven't done so, please hit that subscribe button, and I hope that you'll return again soon for another video and have a fantastic week.